This short video explains two stanzas from the Evolving Ground Invocation liturgy. The first is an origin myth, and the second explains the prerequisites for successful Buddhist teaching. Each reworks traditional themes and scriptural motifs in a contemporary worldview. The video is extracted from a recording of an Evolving Ground Vajrayana Q&A session. I host those monthly, and they're free for all Evolving Ground members. Membership in Evolving Ground is also free. Origin. Primordial chaos and eternal order. Quantum flux and unified field. Emptiness explodes into form. Diversity and unity emerge. I would say this text is simultaneously extremely traditional and also extremely untraditional. There's an order to it, which is emanational. Emanational is the idea that everything comes from emptiness, and there are successive waves of manifestation out of emptiness. Emptiness is perfectly simple, and form emerges through initially energy and then form. And this can have a metaphysical interpretation, and that's very traditional. I don't like the metaphysical interpretation. The first paragraph is just very slightly snarky in this way. It is saying, traditionally, we have the emanation from emptiness, and this is a little bit metaphysical. This is an allusion to the Big Bang in current physics, and this is a sort of a slightly snarky commentary on, look, if we have to have an origin story, let's have one that is modern Western understanding instead of this thing, but at the same time, it's being the traditional emanational story. So it's kind of doing both things at once. Fivefold confidence. Because emptiness and form exist, time and place come into being. Because receptive awareness exists, understanding comes into being. Because understanding exists, students come into being. Because students exist, teachers come into being. The fivefold confidence is traditionally called the five perfections or the five certainties. It can be taught in a variety of quite different seeming ways. I will briefly sketch a religious or metaphysical interpretation, a practice interpretation, and a pragmatic interpretation. The five things are the time, the place, the teaching, traditionally the word is retinue, the students and the teacher. So there's those five things. And the religious way of presenting this is that every Buddhist scripture begins with that. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was teaching at Rajagriha on Vulture Peak Mountain, yada, yada, yada. This is the way scriptures begin. So it's setting the place and the time, and the teacher, it's like, together with a great gathering of bodhisattvas and yada, yada. This is the Heart Sutra version. There's who's there and then what the teaching is, and the whole rest of the scripture is what the teacher said on this particular occasion. In Tantra, the teacher is a Sambhogakaya Buddha. That means a Buddha made of energy. And the retinue is a group of enlightened supernormal beings. And and the place is some kind of fairyland, and the time is eternity. The Tantric Buddha is timeless and is speaking to us right now in this instant. One can find that inspiring, and it makes sense of the structure of a scripture. The practice of this is a practice of pure vision. This is describing a gathering in which teaching occurs. We can practice seeing each other as being fully enlightened divine beings. And this makes the teaching more feasible. The pragmatic interpretation is that in order for a real life, down to earth practice session on Zoom to be effective, these are the 5 conditions that need to be in place. And for you to participate fully and effectively, it's helpful to be confident in each of those 5 factors, that you are in the right place at the right time with an adequate group of students who you feel copacetic feelings for, and the teaching is one that is relevant to you and that will make sense and maybe at best be inspiring, and the teacher has some sort of basic idea of what they're talking about, which is dubious in my case. Because emptiness and form exist, time and place come into being. That's just the sort of pragmatics of a mundane reality. But because we have some appreciation for what emptiness and form means, this is a place and this is a time where we can explore that. Because receptive awareness exists, understanding comes into being. Before it's meaningful to engage in a session like this, you need to have some kind of pre-understanding of why this is attractive and interesting and relevant for you. Because that pre-understanding exists, that is what means that you're a participant. The word here is student. Because students exist, teachers come into being. This is simultaneously traditional and untraditional. In institutional Buddhism, somebody gets designated as a teacher by and blessed by an institution, and they're told, yes, you're a teacher. But in Tibet, it's also very traditional for people to gather around some person just because they seem to know what they're talking about and maybe are inspiring in some way. And then that person winds up being drafted essentially as a teacher. So that's the sense in which, because students exist, teachers come into being.